Hello, beautiful starlet patrons. Apologies, this video is later than anticipated. I thought I was recording yesterday. No. Hello, Migraine. Hello, Joey. What a mess. And then no showy. And I was supposed to go live on the Facebook too, so we're going to reuse that line later because that's great. How you all doing? Hope you're good. Brand new witchy background with crows. That way, because if I move my hand this way, there is no hand. Oh, that because I said that. Thanks, background. So this video is going to be the slightly deeper topic, and I will say in future, as of next week, when I finally get back to the UK, fingers crossed, famous last words, touch wood, I have to for other reasons. There's going to be 2 videos a week, and I was thinking about this, and I think for the $5 tier it makes more sense to have the video accompanying the Star Drive Overdrive, the energy oracle reading for the week, as something a bit lighter, either like the oracle deck reveal I originally wanted to do and will do next week, or just something lighter and fun, a little more frivolous. I've had all sorts of weird random requests over the years. How does Joey do her makeup? Not so well. Sometimes getting used to falsies, and like I notice when they're not perfect because #Virgo, and recommendations, maybe mini spells and things. If you're on TikTok, I've been doing little mini spells on there which are super free, but we can definitely do little ones on here for you guys as a little exclusive, maybe around the topic, things like that, things that are small, silly, fun, goodness, still enjoyable content. And then for the $10 video, then that can be the spiritual theme, the deeper message, and then maybe as we move up there can be like the shadow version. I might be doing way too much work, but we'll see with the shadow version. We'll see how I think and feel about it. It might not always be a video for that. It depends. And so this video for this week is going to be on the $5 and above tier, so everybody has access to it. I think that's much fairer this week as we go forward. My back's aching. I'm probably going to be moving all over the place. So all those things being said, I've also been delayed again. Sunday I will be back. Apologies to anyone waiting for me. I literally can't do much about it. It's driving me nuts. I'm getting quite anxious about it, but that aside, something in the spiritual ether right now, which is like, oh, you want to travel, do you? Nope. Over and over again, and I'm like, what is happening? Yeah. So this week's topic, the much more serious topic, as we come back to the serious video that this was originally going to be, and it still is, we're still going to deep dive into it, is talking about the blog post, the message that came up, which was soul aches, the shadows of feeling used. And this kind of evolved from the reading at the beginning of the week, which is available in blog post form, audio form, and then the videos are the deeper form of it. So we're talking about energies all around each week and what that means for us. So the blog post is available right now on Starry Eyed Supplies starryeyedsupplies.com/blog. So the slash is going to bug me. And you can read it right now if you want, but I'm going to be referring to it all the way through. I have linked it already in Patreon, and I'm going to be like reading bits and pieces and talking about why I felt that this was necessary and why I felt like this is a topic that we need to talk about. So the first thing that I kind of talk about is the divide between knowing when a shadow issue is your own or when something about the inner turmoil is highlighting a serious issue in regards to our connections to others. So put simply, it may be about you, it may be about others. It's likely a conglomeration between the two, and it usually tends to be that way because nobody's ever blameless in these situations. It's very unlikely. Sometimes, but as adults, it's a little bit more grey, shades of grey than that. So ignoring the abomination of a book. So as we shift between the energies of Capricorn and Aquarius, because we shifted from Capricorn into Aquarius, and then we had a Capricorn moon, and the shadow qualities of both of these can merge, bringing out the worst in people, a tendency to not only act from a place of cold selfishness, but a calculated strike of using people without a second thought. There's something very much in the air right now that's kind of, especially with that Saturn-Pluto conjunction that astrology lovers keep talking about. It's a mess. It's a real mess. So in the shadow-ridden ecosystem, it can be easy to feel used. And hell, it is easy to be used. Let's not skip around the dirt. People do use people. And again, that is a sliding scale. That is, sometimes people sort of use people, manipulate people, and it's not really intentional. Like they're just trying to get something done. In the workplace is probably the easiest example. Sometimes in the family unit, people just trying to get things done and sorted and fixed and and they're kind of pushing people's buttons to get what they want, and it's not really. And you know, they might be using it against someone they perceive to be idle, lazy, etc., or not pulling their weight, and they're just using the tactics that they think are maybe less aggressive sometimes to get the job done. And it's not that they necessarily mean badly, and it's not necessarily that the people being lazy mean badly, and that's one of those messy situations, because there could be a whole host of reasons. The person who's being lazy might not be being lazy. Maybe they're new, maybe they're inexperienced, maybe it's nothing to do with that, maybe they're having a bad time at home. You know, there's all sorts of things that people don't take into consideration. And then it's a sliding scale from how deliberate it is, how conscious it is, how repeat offender it is, that sort of thing. So these are all elements to take into account when looking at your personal life, when you're documenting, journaling, thinking about making a change out of situations where you feel used. The tunnel vision game is strong, and it is important to check oneself, especially one's accountability, and not feed the blame game, which is going on like a game of frenzied checkers with snipey barbs being slammed down like game pieces, as though the extra click will somehow invalidate others. It's a minefield, and eventually it will blow up. So what I mean by this, especially if you don't know what checkers is, it's like a board game with pieces on, and people are like click, 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 like it's a battle of wills, like it is aggression, like somebody's going to win. And in these cases, it's not about that. People don't win. There is a lot of slinging mud. There is a lot of misunderstanding. There is a lot of blaming happening right now, and it's a mess. It's a mess. So I understand how it feels to be used. Truly. I have had money stolen from me, intellectual property and physical products copied for a quick profit, been cast out when I'm no longer useful, ignored in favor of more popular people, even replaced by others, and it sucks. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. I know how that feels. I know how you feel if you find yourself in that situation. Come sit with me. We'll feel those feels and we'll move through them. So before I move on to the next part of my post, I will say that a lot of these situations, the best thing to do is to, in my mind, is to at first sit with it, feel it, even though it sucks. It sucks. I hate it. It made me feel this way. It made me feel small. It made me feel unworthy. I had all these thoughts. I had all of this depression. I had this emotional response. I moved through emotional responses. I started off very despondent, very dejected, very removed, very isolated. That moved into like an anger at being ignored and like used and dropped. That moved into like a confrontational anger, like demanding to know, having reasons so I can better understand why this happened, because that's still blaming self, by the way, when you're desperate to know what you did to deserve it, and it may be nothing. In the situation, sometimes that can help you learn. We'll move on to that in a minute. But if it's one of those situations where someone's just an ass, then sometimes the lesson is you need stronger boundaries, a kind heart, and do what you can do. Hold yourself accountable, which we're going to move into in a minute, of course. I always say that. Like, no one is ever usually blameless. But if someone's like just flat out used you, and then in future, boundary like a mofo. And boundary like a mofo is not the same as doing that to other people. Like, it's not the same thing as, right, well, I'll just treat other people like this then. I don't think that's strength of character and emotion. I think it just swallows the poison down deeper, repeats the cycle. It's no good. So I have also been accused of being inconsiderate of other people's needs. Sometimes I felt that was valid, and I get stuck in tunnel mode for one reason or another. And sometimes it felt like a shadow dump of the other person without merit. So sometimes as a Virgo, I get very tunnel vision, or just as a me, maybe, I don't know. But I get very tunnel vision. I get into and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and someone's upset, and what happened? What? And that's literally happens to me a little bit too often. I try and work on that, and I try and be more aware, and I'm always open to honest conversation about it, always. But a lot of people won't have the honest conversation about they felt shadowy in that moment, they felt rejected in that moment, they felt used in that moment. I don't go out of my way to use people because I know how that feels. Grew up in that environment. It's not nice. And so, like, if I have to hold myself accountable if I have done that, if I have unwittingly kind of like, you know, marched through and stamped on someone's flowers, basically. And that's important, to hold ourselves to account and learn to change and learn to be more aware of the people we care about. It's just part of being a decent human being, never mind spiritual person or a witch. So sometimes it's a shadow dump. Sometimes people say, you did this, and you're like, what? And we have to be like, if we hurt someone, we don't get to say we didn't. It is wise words that I stick to, even when I feel it's very biased and very shadowy, especially if the other person isn't really holding their shadows to account, which is the problem when you're taking the moral high ground with these things. Because the temptation is to be like, look, you're off down the deep end. This is, you know, that feeling annoyed that you are being dragged over the coals for something that you didn't say, for example, that one drives me insane. Like, oh, well, you inferred it by saying this. I'm like, no, trust me, if that's what I had meant, I would have said that. Don't hold me to account for things I did not say, because usually it's the shadows of people running riot. And I have seen people do it. People have ended friendships over them doing it. And it infuriates me to be told what I think or what I feel. You don't have dominion over what I think and what I feel. I do. And everybody should give everybody else that, I don't even know what to call it. It's because it's not like consideration even. It's their natural born right to have dominion over their thoughts and feelings. Like, they don't belong to anyone else. So shadow dumping does happen. It's something to be aware of. It's something to be careful of within ourselves, to know when we are being shadowy and triggered and we're blowing things out of proportion. We're seeing things which maybe we have deduced from something that was not said. Now, the problem is there are people who obviously work in the passive aggressive and gaslighting. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, I used to have experience with gaslighting and narcissism, and it can be so toxic because your words are getting messed around. You said this, you said this, you said this, even if you didn't. Well, you meant this. Well, I didn't say it. And it can get very, very twisted. And so, honestly, in those situations, if someone is doing that to you over and over again, remove yourself if you can. If you possibly can, as much as you can, remove yourself. I don't tend to, by the by, I don't tend to label people as narcissists generally, because I feel it can be a really dangerous thing to do. I was against it completely and utterly before, and then I kind of ran into that exact situation, and I was like, well, this is definitely what this is, but I'm still not a qualified psychologist to be saying that's what it is, but it's the same as everybody else who's been through this. So let's not be throwing it around like candy, though. Let's not be saying that every single person who disagrees with us is that, because that's not the same thing. So the fun situations are the ones untangling the mess, when it's a combination between something you did do and something they're shadowing over, and learning to readjust and reject the elements which are not yours to carry under any circumstances. Too many of us, because we feel partially guilty, or we recognize that we are partially responsible for the situation around the shadowiness, around the feelings of being used, when we are partially responsible because maybe we weren't giving as much effort to that relationship with whomever as much as we, and we know that we neglected that relationship, or we know that we did something that was a bit shady. I don't know, maybe, you know, we were snappy with that person at some point because we were in a bad mood and we didn't mean to be, but we were, and then that kind of escalated and blah, blah, blah. So when it's a mess of things, it can be very, very difficult. But the trick is really learning to not carry the shadows which are not yours. It's difficult. It takes practice, it takes consideration, it takes knowing thyself, which really knowing yourself. And I will use the following example. I had somebody tell me a lie recently, and then tell me that I was thinking it was true because it was one of my worst qualities to think the worst of a situation and panic. And in all reality, they lied. And so it was kind of like poking at someone else's shadows to get away with lying. And that's not on. I will not carry that under any circumstances. I will not be told who I am. I will work on who I am as hard as I can, but I will not be told that in a situation where I'm clearly capable of discernment that I am not, for somebody else's cheap lie benefit. It's not okay. Not okay. So, as we move on through, equally important is recognizing the places you are valued. In our busy modern lives, we cannot expect to be somebody's priority all of the time. That includes every single person, significant other or otherwise. The super selfish of other people's time, needs, limitations, concerns. At the same time, when we are almost never considered, it is time to make some serious decisions about the kinds of relationships in which we are in. When the efforts you go to, the consideration you put in is not matched, then it's time to retract your energy. You are worthy of time, you are worthy of attention. You deserve people who are enthusiastic about spending time with you, creating with you, and sharing laughter and tears and soul-deep conversation. You're worth that. And so it's that B word again, no, not that one, but balance. And I think that's really something that I really wanted to stress in this energy of the shadows of feeling used. It's come through this week. It was hovering around last week. It's probably going to push into next week. I have a feeling next week will be a bit more of a confrontational week. We'll see. And it can suck, guys. It's one of these situations which sucks in life. It's one of those shadow situations. It can be difficult to talk about it. It can be difficult to come to a middle ground with people, and it's hard. And sometimes just talking about these things can help. So really learn to listen to your heart. Know when you feel that you're being ignored or not considered, and really go into why you feel that way. And if it is honestly that something has changed and something is not the same, and there are weird reasons for it, and you're putting all this effort in and someone else isn't, it's not okay. There needs to be balance. It can't be all the time with anybody, because we have lives, and that's fair. You have to allow people to be people and have lives and have quiet time and have time where they don't want to be social or whatever it is. You understand them and you give them consideration. So we can't be needy, soul-sucking drains of attention. And at the same time, we cannot also be tapping on somebody's wall wondering why they don't give a damn about us. Because to be honest, if you feel like they don't give a damn about you, there's something very wrong, usually. Instincts, intuitions, trust them. It'll be okay. So I'm going to end there, guys. Thank you for bearing with me. Many blessings. We'll get into the new format next week. Catch you next time.